Namaste, Rajesh Govindrajulu here on behalf of Veranda Club and with all the unsung heroes. I wish to welcome the unsung heroes. Ladies first, Amrita Talukdar, followed by Ranjit Radhakrishnan. These are the two unsung heroes today because they've spoken about the unsung heroes in the Mahabharata and written really well about them. I was super thrilled to receive this book and read. I knew a lot about Mahabharata as a child and I thought I could win any contest or quiz based on the Mahabharata, but these taught to shame. I'm learning. I knew about Uluka, but not about others. Dear friends, I welcome you for this event once again. This is a wonderful effort by Indica, curated by the very well-known and good-intentioned author Sai Swarupa Iyer, under the guidance of Mr. Harikiran Vadlamani. They've got together a tribe of 10 authors to write about 10 unsung heroes in the Mahabharata, or 10 heroes who are the protagonists. They've spoken about Ravan, Shakuni, Jayadratha, Ghatotkach, Prativindya, Bhagadatta, Yudhamanyu, and Yuyutsu. Hello, people want to know who these people are, right? Because later when we put it on YouTube, they'll want to know who's Yuyutsu, who's Yudhamanyu, who's Bhagadatta. Of course, everyone knows Shakuni. Ravan is the son of Arjuna through his wife Ulupi, a Naga princess. Shakuni is the famous Shakuni. And Jayadratha, the brother-in-law of the Kauravas, sister's husband. Ghatotkach, everybody knows. Well, who's this Prativindya? The son of Yudhishthira through Draupadi. He is the first one of the Upa Pandavas. And the others are Sutasoma, Shrutakarma, Shatanika, and Shrutasena. Through Bhima, Arjuna, Nakul, and Sahadev. And well, Bhagadatta. We are around Diwali, so Bhagadatta has come quite naturally. He was the king of Pragjyotisha and was a great warrior. I still remember his elephant, Supratika. Fabulous elephant. Then, of course, Yudhamanyu, the brave warrior from Panchala. You can write a book only on Yudhamanyu, I think. And of course, Yuyutsu, the 101st prince from the Kuru. He cannot be the Kauravas, but also can be. You have Duryodhana to the, and then you have Yuyutsu, who was illegitimately, they say, to Dhritarashtra, and is usually called a traitor. Vikarna, the critic of the Kuru princes, was known as the loyalist, and Yuyutsu was known as the traitor. But their intentions were one and the same. They wanted to uphold Dharma all the time. Each one chose a different path. So this book has 10 short stories, and it is about 200, and it has a nice glossary which tells you what an Akshauhini is, what is Agnistoma, a special fire ritual sacrifice. It also tells you what is Lakshagriha, house. It talks about Takas, a division of soldiers from the Kaurava armies who took an oath to either kill Arjuna or be killed by him. Uttariya. What is Uttariya? We only know about Uttara, who comes in the Mahabharata. An ancient Indian scarf-like piece of cloth used by both men and women. And Vyuha once again is the formation, here the battle formation. Now let us go to this very nicely done, I must say, the mediocre son. Who is this mediocre son? I would always think most of us are the mediocre kids of our parents. At least I am. Prativindya. And before I forget, I must tell you, these authors have taken up the stories of heroes and they have taken it to only one day of the war in a part. That's what I have understood from this. So here, you come to Prativindya. So Prativindya is the son of Yudhishthira. He is in his tent. He's relaxing. And slowly, the war is over to a good part. 2 weeks are over, perhaps. Who's going to live for that day? Once you battle, you don't even know who's going to live. So every day is a chance for these brave warriors. One day at a time is all. So beautifully written. You can. I'm just thinking movies like Ben-Hur or Excalibur could be produced based on this narration. Rajaji, in his Mahabharata, chose not to describe the battle much, and he's spoken about it though. Here, let me read out. In the distance, the Chandalas cutting the dead and piling them aside to make way for the battle. They had worked all night and were still toiling. Even though the ground was further away, a mild stench of carcasses pervaded the air that mixed with the smell of burnt roasted meat. My stomach clenched hard. I could retch at any moment. This is the scene. And you see, there's a meeting place. Where do they meet? They meet in the tent belonging to Yudhishthira. The earlier scene was tent. Here it goes. This was the largest tent in the camp, belonging to my father King Yudhishthira, lavishly decked with carpets and lit torches. Cushioned seats were set up on one side of the market for discussions within the inner circle of the Pandava camp. A large bed stood at the other end, wheeled behind an ornate curtain. A table was set up temporarily at the entrance, piled high with plates of fruit, lentils, and roasted meat. The Kshatriyas, right? They ate non-vegetarian food. My mouth watered at the same time that my stomach decided to rumble. A few servants carried trays of juice, and I helped myself with one tumbler. Earlier, meetings took place in the big tent designed specially for conferences. We called it the Eka people alive. The king's makeshift dwelling was sufficient to serve the purpose. See what's happened in this battle. They began with the 11 plus 7, 18 Akshauhinis. And by the time we are talking about this day connected with easily 3/4 of them must have been destroyed, because 10 days of Bhishma's commandership, 5 days of Drona's commandership, all over. Now the last part of the war. And in this part of the war, most of the soldiers, nobles, princes, captains, elephants, horses, all have been killed. Bhumi Devi has been rid of her burden. These lusterless Kshatriya soldiers who failed to properly had to face death in the battlefield because they were not upholding Dharma. Therefore, they had all been exterminated in this warfare. So Prativindhya, they're all, meet each other. It appears that Prativindhya and Shrutakarma are quite close to each other in the story. They go and meet Sutasoma, Shatanika, and Shrutakarma camp of their father and uncles. And they have a discussion. They look at every day there's a formation. Makara Vyuha means Makara formation, like a crocodile. Chakra Vyuha means concentric circles all around. So this will be the same as yesterday. Uncle response. With fewer soldiers, the formation will be smaller, but I think still work. With destruction of men, everything, this is what has happened. The Pandavas, they show the battle also. Amrita shown the battle where Prativindhya, I suppose, goes on a horse, fights his enemies, and has a major kill, and is not found in the list of people who are killed by his opponent. Alive for one more day, amused one more day. Each morning we rode out, but to death or victory we didn't know. The 16th white. Many major kings and warriors from the Kaurava camp had been killed. Their numbers were significantly reduced. Kshema Durti, Vinda, Anuvinda, and Shamsaptakas, and of course Chitra from Abhisara. My major, but Karna was still alive. So, a deadly war. At the beginning of the war, it looks as though, Dharma will win or lose. The kingdom was to be gained or not gained. But at this stage of the war, after the 15 days, both the armies had been reduced to not even a shadow of their original form. The soldiers and the heroes start thinking, whatever are they going to inherit and what is going to happen to them. Beautiful narration, I must say, from Amrita, where she talks about the innermost feelings at the time of the 16th day, where you know that the war is almost over. Too many soldiers have been killed and the victory is very, very expensive. Yet Dharma had to be upheld. And people are not sure who will come back home alive for that day. And these 5 sons of Draupadi had not spent much of the time with their mother while growing up because she was in exile, unfortunately. Sad for them. Their brother Abhimanyu was dead, Ravan was dead. There were so many other cousins who had already been killed. Cousins from both the sides. The sons. Children of the Kauravas had been killed already. It was, and several of the Madhavas had been killed. So many brothers, sons, brothers-in-law, sons-in-law, fathers-in-law, co-brother-in-law, mercy have been put to death. By also for the purpose of upholding Dharma, and also the war, like they will start once the sun is up. And once they blow the conch at dusk, they will stop. They will exchange dead bodies. They will exchange this, that. And soldiers were free to go into each other's camp and talk with the enemy and come back also. Though they did it secretively. So all this was also happening. Samrita has given a beautiful narration. I don't want to spoil the worth of the story by reading more out of it. I think people should definitely, at least 100,000 people should read the book Unsung Valor. It is taken up. I'm sure in a short time there will be at least 300 characters from the Mahabharata on whom book project, if I'm not mistaken. We'll quiz them later separately. and come to Ranjit Radhakrishnan. Let me tell you briefly about Amrita. She lives in Kolkata. She's an IT and she's called a storyteller. As a blogger and independent researcher, she spends her time reading and exploring the Mahabharata, which is the fifth Veda. If you read the Mahabharata and if you've understood it fully, people that is enough. You don't need the Vedas and somebody else's role and try to learn. There's enough in the Mahabharata to pick up. When she is not coding or reading ancient Indian epics, she indulges in films and music. This is a first short story, and this is a first published work. Way to go, Amrita. I'm sure that you're going to let there be some suspense with doing, because now we are going to go to the man who was known for his stealth, Shakuni. Ranjit Radhakrishnan is a well-known person in Tamil Nadu also and in Karnataka. He's a Bengaluru-based entrepreneur, ex-actor, assistant director, script assistant, toll manager, and pretty much everything. Oh, mine. I never knew that he could manage. He's a father to a brat and a husband to a wife who loves dogs, cats, cows, elephants. Wow. Her husband and other animals strictly in that order. He's a proud pagan and an ardent idol worshipper. Description. He drinks a lot of tea, as every writer. Now let us come to the chapter number 2, the dice of death. Eyes with pupils like deep fathomless pools of black onyx seemed to stare straight into Shakuni's soul. He awoke startled, a cold sweat breaking on his brow. His royal pavilion, low burning oil lamps, was silent and bathed in shadow. You're putting Shashi Tharoor to shame now. Vare Vah. Shakuni whirled in his bed, his hand looking for the dagger under it as he searched for the intruder. His horses bickered in the stable. Very nice. The room was much like the man, all skin and gaunt and stiff. So Ranjit is wearing black clothes today, I think, if my eyes are not deceiving me. Shakuni was the prince of Gandhara and the brother of Gandhari. He came over as part of his sister's Stridhan or dowry, only to destroy her and her family. The blind Dhritarashtra was not just blind physically, but I suppose was blind because he did not listen to Vidura. In the Mahabharata, you have 4 texts: the Vidura Niti, the Bhagavad Gita, and Bhishma's advice to Yudhishthira after the war. Vidura Niti is good advice unheeded. And here, Ranjit has brought in Vidura too. Here is a Shakuni who is a sorcerer, a person adept, and everything else and what. In fact, I have a friend in Coimbatore who wanted to start a native game company called Shakuni. And there's one more girl who wants to start a heritage game business called Shakuni. And both these guys, these guys to try to moved light-footed and wary as a fox, scanning for the intruder again. The high-domed pavilion was cavernous. It was made of linen, hemp, and jute, meticulously sewn, glued and waxed at the seams and painted in the royal colors. In woolen rugs lined the floor atop flat terracotta tiles to keep the moisture from seeping in. Every few feet, metal oil lamps mounted on armatures driven to the ground. Racks of lances gilded with gold lined the left of the pavilion. Their shafts, made of hard iron wood, were polished to a shine, and the spear points were whetted razor sharp. Tables bearing swords, daggers, and throw axes lined the right. Shakuni watching the shadows. Full narration again. I was simply taken aback. See, these are stories of protagonists known in this world today. So it must be really challenging for the authors to present them in a new light. Otherwise, people will say, oh, come on, man, I know the story of Jayadratha, I know the story of Shakuni, I know the story of Prativindya, but I know that there were 5 Upa Pandavas who were killed after the war by Ashwatthama, who was supposedly like Rudra himself. What's the big deal? What is new? The story of Mahabharata can give. Why do you have to spend pages and pages of it? But these people have shared the story in an amazingly interesting manner. Ranjit and Amrita have done justice, and there's a lot of comes in this story. Drona roared as he scythed through the Pandava army. He lanced through the melee of chariots and war elephants, scimitars and spears, intent on fighting his vow of capturing Yudhishthira alive. Huge phalanxes of Kaurava warriors in the Sakata view followed in his wake. Enthused by his prowess, their spirits rekindled with after Karna's entry into the battle array. Death intent today on harvest for himself. He sped on his chariot, pulled by the finest Gandharan stallions, swift and excited by the scent of blood. Wow. He was followed by the cavalry and the Gandharan chariots built for speed and maneuverability. Deadly. 20,000 chariots and 70 by him. Shakuni sped towards Yudhishthira. The earth was strewn with the dead and the dying. The slaughter was immense. Thousands would reach Yama's abode today and every day till the war reached its end. It would take a century, it seemed, to drain the blood that soldiers were crushed under elephant foot and chariot wheels alike. Arrows and scimitars impaled heads and limbs, coupled and men quartered in thousands. Blood flowed like a river and collected in pools. Oh my. Bloodlust was everywhere. Father slew sons and sons slew father. Shalya was killed by Yudhishthira, a nephew. Deva thundered up a mace for himself. Shakuni laughed tauntingly. Shakuni uses a lot of witchcraft here and magic and sorcery here while fighting with Sahadeva. To read it and enjoy and not listen to me, because when you read, you listen to yourself. So I'm not going to read that part. So he's described it marvelously. And shafted with sorcery, black magic, and the game of dice. They simply, we look upon him as an old limp guy with no capability, like a whiff of fresh air. We see Shakuni being presented as a warrior with a cavalry, with an infantry, with elephants, chariots, everything. And there's one thing that I must appreciate Ranjit here for. The Central Asian horses and the Afghan horses are amongst the quickest in the world. They say that they're capable of covering almost 200 kilometers per day. Somebody had to leave Afghanistan and come to Delhi. They can do that in hardly 10 days if it's only the cavalry. Whoever thought that's how Ghazni, Gori, and Babur and everybody else came and gored our country. We should remember that and never give up. So Shakuni had these fabulous steeds, and with these steeds he participated in battle. Sahadeva had sworn to kill Shakuni. You know, each one of them said that they will have their catch. Sahadeva said he will kill Shakuni. Bhima said he will kill the 100 Kauravas. Drishtadyumna said he will kill Drona. He was supposed to kill Bhishma, and he had sworn to kill Karna. And until Bhishma fell, Karna said he will not come into the battlefield. There was times when Arjuna found Kaurava prince, but he will spare him. He'll say, "Let my brother kill you, man, and not me, because he's sworn to kill you." So that means there are two things. One is the promise or the oath taken up by the team members is well preserved, and the confidence that they had on each other. Abhimanyu could have easily eliminated Karna if he wanted, but he didn't. He let his father eliminate him, and poor guy lost his life. He was none other than Varchas, the son of Chandra, who was here briefly but a great soldier. We are reminded of, who will you be reminded of in modern historical context? I am reminded of Vishwashrao, a 19-year-old soldier who led the Maratha army in the third battle of Panipat. The son of Balaji Bajirao, the heir apparent of the Peshwa, killed in battle. And it was his brother Madhavrao who later became the Peshwa. Abhimanyu reminds me of Vishwashrao, and Vishwashrao reminds me of Abhimanyu. Both were in their teens when they were killed. So here, Sahadeva actually faces a tough time with Shakuni. Of course, Shakuni on another day. You know, a soldier who fights and runs away lives to fight another day, is what happens in the Mahabharata. And here I get to see Ranjit Radhakrishnan portraying Shakuni very well, his body language and how he discusses and fights with Vidura. And Vidura is like, you know, the incarnation of Dharma, and this guy looks like an incarnation of Adharma, and he's keen to finish off Vidura after the battle. So Shakuni is here as a deadly character, like a wolf, a fox, whatever you wish to call it. He's in that form. And that form of Shakuni is well harvested by Ranjit here. Each of the 10 stories are a gem. I've read all of them, but we are only focusing on two of the stories. One connected with Shakuni and the other connected with Prativindya, who is the son of Yudhishthira and Draupadi. How many names for Draupadi? Yajnaseni, Krishna because she's dark, Draupadi because Drupada. And why she Yajnaseni? Because she came out of the sacred fire. She and Drishtadyumna, they came out so that Drona is destroyed. That's the background of their birth. And then Panchali, there are so many names for Draupadi, just as how there are many names for Krishna, and both of them were very close to each other. Draupadi relied on Krishna and Krishna relied on Draupadi. It was only through Draupadi that Dharma was upheld, because Dharma had killed and disregarded. And the best and the worst way that it can take place is only when there is insulted can Dharma be mangled the most. And that is why in the open court in front of all the leaders, while everyone was boiling, Draupadi was humiliated. Imagine the state of her husbands, her brothers, her kids. How sad that they must have been that day. And that is what was reaped by Duryodhana. What did he reap and why did he reap? Not for the game of dice, not for cheating the Pandavas, not for taking away Indraprastha, not for trying to burn them in the Lakshagriha or the Lak Palace, not for trying to poison Bhima and kill him, not for trying to marry Draupadi in the Akshayantra contest, not for trying to bring over Balarama to not for trying to take away Shalya to their, not for anything else, but only for having mishandled Draupadi. For that is why we say Bharat Mata, we should never mishandle her. That is why we say Bhumi, we should never mishandle her. And that is why all that is to be preserved, all that is to be venerated, all that should respect is given the form of a woman in our society today. And Draupadi is that woman whose form has to be venerated, revered, and highly respected. And that is exactly what happens to the Kauravas because of that. And here, the story of these 5 princes, it's very interesting. I really urge if somebody could write more about all the 5 princes. Maybe Amrita herself can read, do a book on the 5 princes, the Upa Pandavas. It will be really a blockbuster because knows about them. Please try to do that. And now, ladies first, I wish to open the floor to Amrita. I want her to talk about her experiences. How did she do her research, choose Prativindya, and why she gave the name Mediocre Son to the chapter, and how did she come up with the entire screenplay, I would say. This can be made into a movie. The 10 episodes can be made into 2 blockbuster movies with 5 each. You can put it on Netflix or Prime and people will lap it up like that. The descriptions are so nice, the tent, the hemming, the manner in which the princes appear to be lazy and why Shikandi wants to get them up, and their discussions at all, it's all beautiful. So Amrita, I wish to pose you, what is it that you wanted to convey to the readers and to the world while you spoke about these 5 Upa Pandavas, who are hardly known, except that later after the war one day, Gandhari says, Draupadi, you and me are in the same state. My 100 sons and your 5 sons were eliminated. Other than that, we really do not know much about us. So please tell us why you chose them and why you gave that name, and how did you do research on them? Where did you pull it out? And how did you manage to come up with a bestseller? I am looking forward to listen to you. And so are.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak. Basically, my first introduction to Mahabharat was at a very young age, when I was in school at the age of 11, through a very small kiddish Bengali abridged version by Upendra Kishore Roy Choudhury. And at that very young age, I was very, very fascinated with the character of Draupadi. Maybe because I naturally gravitate to strong female characters. So Draupadi was the perfect choice since then. But then my true love for Mahabharata was actually born in the year 2013, when it was made in a very famous Hindi serial on a very famous Hindi channel. And at that time I was in college, so the show immediately pulled me in, and I started reading up the unabridged text of Mahabharata, the classical text, the translations by Kishori Mohan Ganguly, and even the critical edition by Vivek Dev Roy. Critical edition Bodhi, translation by Vivek Dev Roy. So it was at that time when I started reading, I realized that the general perception of the text, the story of Mahabharata, is actually very different from the way Vyasa had described it. Especially the perception about Mahabharata, certain characters like Draupadi, Karna, etc. So that is how I started. That is what piqued my interest further. And I started writing articles, blog, and I started my own blog. So that's how I got introduced to the Indic Studies Circle on social media, and I met Sai Swarupa ji, and I got to know about this initiative by Indic Academy, and I participated. So that's the beginning. Now, why I chose Prativind is very simple, because he's Draupadi's son, Draupadi's eldest son. And normally, when we talk about the sons of the Pandavas, we always generally give a lot of importance to Abhimanyu and Ghatotkacha, and sometimes Iravan, which they certainly deserve because they were the best of the lot, the best warriors, the most promising. But at the same time, it is also true that the five sons of Draupadi somehow get overshadowed, maybe because they were not as good warrior, as good as the other three. So that is why I picked up Pratibin's character and wanted to explore his psyche. And if you, I mean, you've read the book, so you probably understand this. That in my story, I've given less space to the actual battle, and I've talked more about his psychology. You know, what he thought, how he perceived things around him. And the why I call the story Mediocre Son is precisely because of this, because he was not as good as his cousins, Gharotkach, Abhimanyu. He was not as good as them. But then he must have been at least a worthy warrior to have survived the war till the end for 18 days. And despite the fact that he was not as good as the others, he probably did not dwell much on his own shortcomings, and he proceeded with whatever he had and tried to fight with as much valor as he can for the sake of his mother and dharma. That is one. And secondly, another thing that although actually Vyasa's text does not say much about Pratibin, it says very little about him. And the only thing that we get to know is he was called Pratibin because the Brahmanas told Yudhishthir that your son would be able to take the weapons of the enemy, bear the weapons of the enemy like the Vindhya mountains. So he was called Pratibin. And then he's eventually killed by Ashwathama in the end. And he survives. So there are some battles, minor battles in the war where he sometimes gets defeated, sometimes he routs his enemy. So the thing is that even though the text does not really say it explicitly, but I would like to believe, and we can safely assume that he must have had a chip on his shoulder regarding his mother's humiliation as well. So these two things combined, his mediocrity plus his mother's humiliation, these two things were the driving force of his, whatever that he did. And that is how he fought the war bravely with whatever little he had. So that was how I chose the character, chose the name, and that was what I wanted to explore and tell through my story. And how do I do my research? Well, researching on Mahabharata is quite a thing because there are so many translations, so many versions, so many retellings, and so many different opinions, and the epic itself is so long. But my primary source has been the critical edition, Bori, translated by Vivek Debra, and also the non-critical version translation by Kishori Mohan Ganguly. Which was the translation of the Bengal and Burdwan and the Bombay edition of Mahabharata, Sanskrit Mahabharata. So, yeah, that's it from my side.
So, is there any other projects in the offing from you?
Yeah, we are another co-author of mine. We are planning to work on a novel, on a Puranic story, but it's still at a very, very nascent stage, so it's too early to talk about it at this point. But yeah, we are.
Wish you all the very best, Amrita. Pleasure to have you here today amongst us. This is on YouTube also. You can share it, friends, later. And
Sure.
I really thank you for honoring us through your presence.
It was my honor.
You have decided to take it on the Draupadi and her sons, the fiery lady, Draupadi. And now over to Ranjit. Also, and he's played many roles in his life too, and he's very well connected to the Karnataka film industry. So whenever, based on this book has to be shot, he's the best guy to get us the whole team. So we can completely rely on him. And I wish to ask Ranjit, how did he manage to come up and take Shakuni first, and bring him out as a protagonist in an interesting manner, while also showing that Dharma is not taken down by showing Shakuni as a protagonist. Quite challenging. Shakuni, when you try to show him, most of the authors in our country, when they try to show Karna, when they try to show Duryodhana or Ravana, especially notice, and unfortunately that is not heroes because of the acts that they committed, not because of them, but their acts. So here Shakuni was one of those dicey, dangerous characters. Whereas how you manage to and your experiences connected with that, and if there is anything else that you're doing in the future connected with all these epics and itihasas, we'd like to listen to that also. Now over to Ranjit, please.
Thank you. Namaste, everyone. I follow Sai Swarupa on Twitter. So there was this absolutely amazing thread that she was compiling about the individual battles of the Mahabharata war. And I think it's through that Indic Academy got this idea of, bringing out an anthology and all that stuff. So since I was following the thread, I saw the announcement that, they were looking for something like this and they would like people to contribute. And that was the time of, I think, lockdown 1. There was nothing much to do. And since I've been a Mahabharata enthusiast for a very long time, I thought whether I should write something for this. And I did write, and I didn't send it because I wasn't sure. And this was a well-known author, and I didn't want to send something that could be considered really bad or something of the sort. So I showed it to my mother, and she said send it. She liked it. I still didn't send it. I think I sent it on the penultimate day or something of the sort, and I didn't expect much from it. So it came as a bolt from the blue when I got that email from Sai Swarupaji saying that this has been selected, and it was like a thunderclap in my mind. I still have that screenshot. That was my wallpaper on my phone for quite some time because I just couldn't believe it. Basically, I chose Shakuni because I thought nobody else would choose it. So I thought that would better my chances to get. And it is a very interesting character. When I was writing the story, I was pretty clear that I wanted to stay away from, what is the norm today. It seems that we have to make heroes out of Duryodhana and Karna and give them some sob story. Frankly, some of the stories that I've read are really atrocious. They're worse than the 1980s run-of-the-mill pot boilers that come out from our film industry. And, some childhood trauma, something, he's trying to win somebody's love, get revenge. I didn't want to go that way. I think doing that somewhere, you take away the integrity of the character themselves. It's not, attributing a sob story to them or giving them some motivation like this is not doing justice to their character either. Never mind that they're villains or they're not good people. So I was pretty sure that I didn't want to write Shakuni that way. Shakuni is a very, very, intelligent man. I'm sure somewhere down the line he would have thought that, maybe this is not the right way to do things. But maybe he did like his chances of success. And I don't think he was going to be apologetic, that what he was doing would be perceived as adharma or it would be perceived as cheating. He had his eyes set on a goal and he was willing to take any means to get to that end. So I didn't want to compromise that part of his character. So when I was looking for a particular incident in the war, there is a small description that comes there that he used his powers of occult on the 11th day when he was battling with Sahadeva. So that is the incident I picked for this story. And I'm so glad that they picked it. I'm so glad that Sai Swarupa liked it. And thank you to Indic Academy for this. And, the thing I liked about this endeavor by them is that I think Unsung Valor has also done pretty well. There are different anthologies coming out from Indic Academy. There's one by Shiv Kumar ji, one by Aditi Banerjee, and one by Ratul. I think you had him on your show a couple of weeks back. He's also coming out with anthology. So if you look at this initiative, suddenly, something that was impossible 2 years back, you suddenly have a corpus, a pool of 30, 40, 50 writers. And if they can all, pull their weight, being published is a very, very big thing. And, we're so lucky to have that. To come out with stories that need to be told, to counter the narrative that's been set so far. It's a fantastic initiative. That's awesome. It's kudos to Indic Academy to that. So all you have to do now, I mean, if you're like me and you're your biggest critic, you've got validation from some of the biggest names out there. Sai Swarupa and Aditi Banerjee and all these people, they're telling you you're good. So all you have to do is to put pen to paper and, write your hearts out. So maybe we would have a lot of literature coming that way. So once the book was out, Sai Swarupa said that, you guys have to write. You should not, this is a very lucky break. You've got to go ahead and, write a book. Deepak was the first one to get through with that. He was on your show some time back too. Yeah. So I was always fascinated with this Parashurama story. And that's when I started writing it. And I wanted to write it in a different way too. And I sent my first 5 chapters to Sai Swarupa to see if she liked it. Sai Swarupa is like the Indian, literary area Batman, a bat person. I am not sure what the correct terminology is. So whenever there is a problem, we put up the bat signal and she comes, solves the problem, tells us what to do. She's got a plan for everything. So I rely on her judgment. She said, go ahead, write. So I wrote the book. And I sent it across to Westland. By God's grace, they seem to like it too. So it's tentatively titled Rama of the Axe, and it should be out next year. We still haven't started with the edit work for it. Probably maybe April, May. I'm hoping. I don't have a date as yet. So I'm also part of Shiv Kumar's and Aditi's Banerjee's anthology. You have some great writers coming out there. I'm sure they're going to come on your show pretty soon because some of the pieces I've read is absolutely awesome. So this is how it started. And today I'm talking to you. I'm very grateful for that. And thank you once again to Sai Swarupa and Indic Academy and Harikiran Garu. It's incredible to be known as an author.
I second you, Ranjit. Yeah, it's incredible. This idea of seeing your name on print, in a piece of paper, it's the feeling itself is something.
Yeah. And seeing your book in a bookstore, that is awesome. That is.
I still haven't got a chance to see that, but I saw your photo, so where you, That's
so thank you, Rajesh ji, for inviting us over. Thank you for a superb review on Unsung Valor.
And a very detailed one.
Yeah.
Very detailed one. Thank you for that.
This format is excellent, where you talk about the book for such a long time and read out excerpts and then talk to the author. I really loved being here today.
Same here.
Thank you so much. For authors, and we can go on and on for the next couple of years with all of you. With 1 week at a time, I think easily we can do 50 books a year or 50 authors or them coming back once again. Either authors or books, but I think it will be action-packed. And Mahabharata is here once again. It is time for Mahabharata is what? Great India. Time for one more great India has come. And it is the 21st century, which is our India, which we lost 1,000 years ago. We are gaining it back. Let us go reverse to reinvent our country, to reinvent our glory. And it is through people like Amrita Talukdar, Ranjit Radhakrishnan, that we are going to reinvent India in our imagination. India is definitely the fountainhead of philosophy globally, but that has to be translated. You can't do serious poetry work or prose work or epic or Purana work because that's very difficult to capture the imagination. That is very difficult, for it will not capture the imagination of the youngsters and elders alike. they find it very difficult because they have their own day-to-day lives. You all have conveyed what has to be conveyed in the most effective and entertaining manner. Therefore, it becomes easy. You've given it to us like a fruit or a sweet, and we've just taken it in. And I'm sure that many more contests, many more initiatives will come. Maybe eventually 100 books and 100 characters might come out. You know, Shatam, Shatamanam Bhavati Shataya Purushendriya, they say. The Shatam is quite possible, or Trishatam or Sahasram is also possible. Laksham should be the Lakshyam when it comes to the number of chapters or words, or, India is an infinite society. Infinity is our concept. And while you guys are here, we are happy that India will safely become the global leader comfortably in the 21st century. Thank you guys so much for being with us today, and please feel free to join Veranda Club as and whenever you feel like. Please feel free to call us, and we are here at your bidding. I thank Amrita, I thank Ranjit, I thank Sai Swarupa, Harikiran Vadlamani, and please a big thanks to the Desi app YM. YM is like a platform which is being used by us for all these authors and their launches and their discussions. I urge each one of you to use YM, because let us promote Make in India. Thank you so much. I wish you all the best in the times to come. God bless you in all your endeavors. May the great Vyasa who wrote the Mahabharata bless you with more, so that you're able to convey and unravel a lot more from the 18 Puranas, 18 Upapuranas, and the 2 major epics and books like Harivamsa too.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome to explore, and we are here to join the exploration with you. The great journey has just begun. God be with you, gentlemen. God be with you, ladies. And I'm using the plural out of respect. All the best. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you.
Namaste.
lag